Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Oh, the biggest show yesterday took place. It's not just a show, it's
the show of all shows.
the spectacle, the show of all shows. It's a big deal for all Egyptians and the Arab world, really. Egyptians, they witnessed a historic, procession of their country's ancient rulers through their capital of Cairo last night. It's a lavish multi-million-dollar spectacle that saw 22 mummies, 18 kings and 4 queens, that is, transported from the peach-colored neoclassical Egyptian museum to their new resting place 5 kilometers away. Of course, with tight security arrangements befitting their loyal blood and status as national treasures, the mummies were relocated to the new National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in what is called the Pharaoh's Golden Parade. Now, what we saw, authorities shut down roads along the Nile for the elaborate ceremony designed to drum up interest in Egypt's rich collections of antiques and also when tourism has almost entirely stalled because of the pandemic. But as the royal mummies arrived at the museum, which was officially inaugurated yesterday, as we said, cannons fired a 21-gun salute. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stood by as the mummies filed past on vehicles bedecked with golden pharaonic motifs. It was a spectacular show. Yes, it was the show of all shows.
Wow.
Yes. And if you guys did not get to see it, go look it up on YouTube and watch it. It's so worth it.
So essentially, this parade, which took place between the Egyptian Museum, their old location near Tahrir Square, and the new home of these mummies, which are being relocated at the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. That's going to be in Egypt's first Islamic capital, Al Fustat. The mummies of Ramses the Great and 21 others were part of this golden parade. It's been a highly anticipated event organized by Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, and they're trying to promote tourism in Egypt. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi tweeting, "This majestic scene is new evidence of the greatness of the Egyptian people, the guardian of this unique civilization that roots back into the depths of history." He invited all Egyptians and the whole world to watch the event. He said it evokes the spirit of the great ancestors who preserved the homeland and created a civilization in which all humanity takes pride. The path of construction and humanity, he described it. And these processions are over the top. I mean, I'm looking at it now. You've got people dressed as if it's the time of the pharaohs. They're carrying urns and various objects to the new museum. And you have these vehicles, too, housing the mummies.
They're so cool. Yeah.
Specially designed vehicles.
And they had the names on them.
The names of the Egyptian pharaoh royalty
that is being carried.
And apparently they were put in special nitrogen capsules from within. So
that's right.
Really high-tech ceremony.
They're placed in special capsules filled with nitrogen to ensure their protection.
You said something interesting to me off the air about this. It almost felt Masonic or ritualistic or sort of...
Yeah, it was. It had a lot of that vibe.
My big question was, what is the purpose? What's happening? Why are we doing this?
Tourism.
Yeah, promoting tourism.
That's what I felt.
And what I see...
And I feel like Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is putting his hands on everything in the country.
Yeah.
He wants to, revamp everything.
It re-evoked the national pride, I think, the heritage, just like how we celebrate. I think he got jealous of the Sharjah Heritage Days, and this is exactly why they're doing it. But look, the other thing is playing the vibes of the Prince of Egypt to get into the spirit of this. It's basically, I understand, is the lead up towards the opening and the inauguration of their new attraction, which is going to be called the Grand Egyptian Museum. They're going to be next to the Giza pyramids. According to the plans, it will house pharaonic collections, including the celebrated treasure of Tut Tutankhamun, or Tutankhamun. It discovered in 1922, the tomb of the young ruler who took the throne briefly in the 14th century contained treasures including gold and ivory, and a so-called curse of the pharaoh emerged in the wake of the Tutankhamun's unearthing in 1922 to 23. Now, my big question when I went to Egypt, way back in 2005, I think, that was I went down to that place, the Valley of the Kings, in search of Tutankhamun, and then they said, no, he's not here. We have the coffin here, but the body is elsewhere. And then I went to Cairo in search of Tutankhamun, and they said, no, his remains are in London, and the bits are here. It's like, where is Tutankhamun? My quest for Tutankhamun was still alive, but now we know that the Royal Mummies Exhibits is opening on the 18th of April, which is in a few weeks' time. According to the Tourism Ministry, some restoration work is still needed before the mummies can go back on display. I think there's a big push, lead up, and a big promotion for the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. And this was a perfect moment to revitalize the national pride.
Definitely.
Were you okay with it yesterday watching? Were you happy with it?
Yes, very happy, and especially because I keep up with the like, for example, the film industry, the Egyptian film industry, and that scene. So there were so many prominent figures and celebrities, Arab celebrities, like top notch, that took part in this ceremony. They all had something to say. Of course, it was all scripted, but they all had something to say. And they all made an appearance at one particular video or part of the show or part of the whole spectacle. So that was amazing. There was also an orchestra singing, playing the violin and all of that in Pharaonic language, believe it or not.
Cool,
so it wasn't just in Arabic. So it was very interesting. And the ceremony, it was designed to showcase the rich heritage of Egypt, because it is a very Egypt does have a rich history, so much rich history. So it should be showcased. If Egypt doesn't do it, who else? So what I was also amazed by is how everything was perfectly orchestrated. There was not even one single mistake. It was all perfect. And they shut down so many streets and areas in the capital of Egypt. It's like, when did you get to do all of this? How did it all turn out to be so perfect? It was just definitely a proud moment for Egyptians and all of us, really. And for Abdel Fattah Sisi, I could see that in his eyes yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing really came out of nowhere, and it's really, really good for Egypt. Their new museum is going to be opening up later this month, and the hope here is that this would revitalize tourism in Egypt. Egypt's been through a lot this decade, a lot of political turbulence. Now we've got the pandemic going on. So the hope now is this is a great, very compelling way to showcase Egypt's culture and history and tradition to the world, and to get people back, because foreign currency is the main way. I mean, tourism is the main way that foreign currency flows into Egypt. So they really, really need people to go there. And it is a wonderful place, and a fascinating one at that. And I can tell you, people from all around the world tuned into the YouTube Live and expressed amazement at what they saw, because it really is out of this world.
It is, and it's so interesting that the fact that most of the mummies, they belong to ancient New Kingdom, which ruled Egypt, guess what, between the years 1539 BC to 1075 BC. Oh my God. Wow. So you're looking at people from that era.
Exactly.
Being transported right in front of your eyes. So it's like...
It's intense, wasn't it? But so far, I mean, the couple of fun facts that emerged from the ancient Egypt is that the men and women all wore fake beards, apparently, and they also wore makeup. And the king, regardless of gender, the ruler of ancient Egypt was always referred to as a king. And the title of pharaoh was not Egyptian, which means great house. They were not known as pharaohs back then, but were known as kings. Wow. Interesting facts that emerge from that part of the world. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We've got the sports headlines lined up for you, and after that we'll continue the discussions here on the programme. Up next is going to be the discussion on India and what's going on. All of this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95 and a very good morning and welcome back onto the program. The U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change, John Kerry, visited a number of the UAE's strategic projects supporting the country's efforts in the field of clean energy and limiting the consequences of climate change. He was taken on a helicopter tour to the world's largest single-site solar project, Noor Abu Dhabi, with Dr. Sultan Ahmad Al-Jaber, the UAE Special Envoy for the Climate Change and Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, amongst a number of his other prominent titles. So this was a massive tour, and they looked at lots of very key initiatives in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi.
Actually, before that, today, Kerry will actually attend high-level discussions on advancing global action to halt climate change at the GCC and MENA region for Climate Action Abu Dhabi. Now, this is his first visit to the Middle East since being appointed to the new role, the climate envoy. And the veteran politician was made climate envoy by U.S. President Joe Biden and vowed to swiftly make up for America's lost years in the battle to protect the environment. So his visit to the UAE comes during a critical time, obviously, in the global fight for halting rising temperatures. And also, we know that a major international climate meeting convened by Biden takes place this month, while the COP26 climate change summit is to be staged in Glasgow, Scotland in November. Definitely the UAE has ambitious plans to rapidly increase the amount of energy it generates from renewable sources. Actually, at the end of last year, the country's renewable capacity reached 2.3 gigawatts, and this is forecast to leap to 9 gigawatts by the year 2025. And alongside the Noor solar facility, which began generating power back in 2019, in fact, there are 4 new projects that will drive this growth.
That's right. And John Kerry is going to be attending the Regional Climate Dialogue Summit in Abu Dhabi on April 4th, though that is going to be taking place today. And head of the meeting, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, cabinet member and Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, said that this meeting is going to provide a platform for countries to, quote, unite around progressive, practical solutions to help reach global climate goals. So what we're going to be seeing is the participation of 26 members, representatives from the GCC, the MENA region, and from around the world as well. And they're going to come together and call for greater progress in terms of climate action. Al-Jaber said, quote, the UAE views climate as an opportunity for economic development while contributing practical solutions to a global problem that affects us all. As the world seeks new pathways to building back better in the wake of COVID-19, John Kerry's visit will help consolidate efforts on smart, sustainable solutions. So they're going to be talking about all things from accelerating the development of renewable energy solutions. They're going to explore the potential of new zero-carbon energy sources and ways to reduce carbon emissions from the intensity of hydrocarbon fuels and much more. And they're going to be talking about policies, meaningful, concrete plans, and action to help mitigate the impact of accelerating climate change trends that are of great concern to the region in terms of food, in terms of water security, desertification, and the harm that's being done to the environment. So all of those aspects will be discussed, and they're going to look for productive, creative, and concrete solutions to address those problems.
Preparing for a better tomorrow, indeed. Now, this is a big transition from what used to be in the previous administration, the Trump administration. We saw climate change not prioritized, and there were withdrawals from the Paris agreements. And we know that the United United Arab Emirates was one of the first countries in the region to sign the Paris Agreement and the first to submit an economy-wide, nationally determined contribution to reduce emissions compared to business as usual in the year 2030. We're looking at this bigger picture of energy transition here in the United Arab Emirates. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We shall return right after the business news headlines. We'll continue the discussions here on Pulse 95. Now, up next, we shall talk about the big issues surrounding the AstraZeneca vaccine and what's going on. All of this will be discussed here on the Morning Majlis.
Join the conversation with the Morning Majlis, Pulse 95.
Yes, text us at 4215. Join the conversation. We're discussing the AstraZeneca vaccine, and it's been in hot water lately, drawing a lot of negative headlines. The big concern here is side effects, the serious side effects that have been reported around the world, and people are saying they might be connected to the AstraZeneca jab. We're talking about blood clots, and there were 30 unusual cases of blood clotting in the United Kingdom following those who had received the AstraZeneca shot. What's concerning is that 7 of those people had died, according to the United Kingdom's medicines regulator. And it's 30 people out of 18 million. And so far, a concrete link hasn't been established whether these blood clots are a coincidence or a genuine side effect of the vaccine. The Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency said the benefits continue to outweigh the risk, echoing what the European Medicines Agency and the World Health Organization have said about AstraZeneca and blood clots, but that did not stop a number of countries from suspending the shot.
That's right.
We're talking about Canada, Germany, France, to name a few. They suspended that shot for people who are under the age of 60.
That's right. Concerns over the vaccine has already prompted those countries, just like you mentioned, Ahmed, Canada, France, Germany, and the Netherlands to restrict its use to older people. The UK, which actually has rolled out coronavirus vaccines faster than other European nations, is particularly reliant on the AstraZeneca vaccine, which was developed by scientists at the University of Oxford. But looking into the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency's view about the relative benefits of the vaccine, it's shared by the European Medicines Agency. It has said a casual link between unusual blood clots in people who have had the vaccine is not proven, but is possible, and that the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks of side effects. Now, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has also urged countries to continue using the jab. Now, we know that, for example, from a professor of pediatrics at the University of Bristol, Adam Finn, he said the extreme rarity of the blood clotting events in the context of millions of jabs administered in the UK kind of makes a decision facing people very straightforward. So he said receiving the vaccine is by far the safest choice in terms of minimizing individual risk of serious illness or death. Now, a more kind of detailed look at the MHRA's findings show that of the 30 cases, 22 related to cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, which stops blood draining from the brain properly, and 8 were connected with other thrombosis events with low platelets. So it said there were no reports of any blood clotting events around the Pfizer, for example, BioNTech vaccine, which has also been widely rolled out in the UK as well.
Yep, looking at the situation, even if the vaccine was the cause of those deaths, and the numbers suggest that around 1 death is occurring in every 2.5 million people vaccinated. So this is one of the reasons why the medical professionals and countries will be looking at the benefits and weighing them with the risks at hand, because the problem is each and every medicine has its own side effects, so they will continue to look at that as well. Looking over at the EU side of things, they've now decided to rely on India's Serum Institute for the delivery of the AstraZeneca vaccine. They were unhappy with the AstraZeneca initially because the EU said the UK was receiving preferential treatment. AstraZeneca AstraZeneca said it had to cut the number of doses it had promised to deliver to the bloc, the European Union. It had blamed production delays. And that was the drama that unfolded with question marks over its safety that emerged first from the EU region, that led to health authorities in both the UK and EU to reassess the safety and efficacy of the vaccine.
Yeah, and the question now is just how common are these clots? The number of people getting these clots, is that a coincidence? Is it on par with what you get on an average population that hasn't been vaccinated? But the thing that draws a lot of concern is this is abnormal clotting. Those are people that are not predisposed to having this issue. And that's what these governments around the world, like Germany, have been concerned about. Germany, for instance, reporting 31 instances of unusual blood clotting with 9 deaths as well. Keep in mind, it's out of 2.7 million people there. But most of those cases were in young and middle-aged people. And similar data of those has been affected in the UK. That hasn't been published. But a wider mix, a more diverse segment of the population is thought to have been affected. But certainly draws a lot of concern. And people there, after receiving those headlines, have been losing their confidence in this AstraZeneca shot. They don't know if it's safe or not.
That's right. But again, as something you mentioned, Abdul Karim, which is very right, all medicine, they all pose kind of or side effects, let's say. They all come with their side effects. And the seasonal, for example, the seasonal flu jab has around a 1 in a million chance of causing the nerve, a certain nerve disorder. So the real question is, are the risks worth the benefits? Even if the vaccine was the cause, and this is still not proven, the numbers suggest around 1 death in every 2.5 million people vaccinated. However, this has to be weighed against the known threat posed by the COVID-19. So if about 2.5 million 60-year-old people, they caught the virus, coronavirus, then around 50,000 would die. If they were all 40 years old, then around 2,500 people would die. So this balance of risk and benefit will continue to be assessed as more safety data comes in, and as the vaccine program moves into younger people as well, who are at a lower risk of dying from COVID-19. So it's we're just gonna have to wait and see how that works out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why governments are restricting it strictly to older people. They did a cost-benefit calculus. The more older people get COVID-19, you're more likely to have mortalities that way. That's the way they're looking at it as well. So from a younger person's perspective, you could risk abnormal blood clotting by taking this vaccine, whereas if you theoretically get COVID-19, your health outcomes may not be as dire. So it's sort of a cost-benefit calculus, as you mentioned. It is pretty interesting, the disparity between what governments are doing and health regulators are doing as well. And even when they're restricting it to specific groups, I think it's sort of harder to convince people to take and weigh those costs and benefits in a rational way, because just the prospect of getting a deadly blood clot after taking it, it's a pretty big pill to swallow as a risk of taking a vaccine, even if you're older.
That's right. And also there was a public health expert, Professor Linda Bold, at the University of Edinburgh. She said, actually, in fact, that COVID itself increases the risk of blood clots quite significantly. And it's possible that may be part of the explanation why we're seeing this.
That's very true. And way back in March 2021, which was about 2 weeks ago, the World Health Organization had also said that the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, including Covishield, continued to have a positive benefit to risk profile, with tremendous potential to prevent infections and also reduce deaths across the world. They issued the statement on safety signals related to the AstraZeneca vaccine, saying that the vaccination remains a critical tool to prevent further illness and death and to control the pandemic. So the organization is of that view as well. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. Up next, we shall be discussing and dissecting what's been happening over in Jordan now because of some political developments and some question marks over the security administration and what's been going on. So all of this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis. So do stay tuned and do drop us a text on 4215 to share your thoughts and opinions.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Friends, we are talking about Friends and the Friends reunion that's coming up. In fact, they're going to start filming this thing tomorrow, according to sources speaking to media. And the production for this has been marred by delays, of course, due to COVID-19. But everybody, except for Abdul Karim, is excited about the return of Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, David Schwimmer, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, and Matthew Perry coming together once again to film this thing.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's like music to my ears. I can't wait. Literally, I cannot wait. I don't know how
theme
this is going
going.
to be. Oh, I love this. You got the theme.
Hell
yes. Actually, this was announced by David Schwimmer, who plays Ross Geller on the show. He revealed this during an interview on the Graham Norton show that he was flying out to Los Angeles to film the program alongside his former co-stars. And he also previously confirmed the show would begin filming in April during this an interview with Andy Cohen on Sirius XM. So he said, so finally, we figured out a way, I think, to film it safely. And there's going to be a portion of it that we film outside because of, safety protocols. So the program will be the first time that all the 6 of the show's stars, Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, Matthew Perry, and David Schwimmer have reunited in front of cameras. However, the actors will not be portraying their former characters. Instead, the one-off unscripted special, it will be in a talk show format. So basically, Kudrow, who played musician and masseuse Phoebe Buffet, previously shared more details with Rob Lowe during an episode of his podcast, Literally with Rob Lowe. She said, it is not a reboot. It is not like a scripted thing. We are not portraying our characters.
So
They're not going to be them.
What are they going to talk about, though? They're just going there as themselves?
Maybe.
Oh, so it's just becoming a talk show as opposed to...
Yeah. According
Interesting.
to Lisa Kudrow. You never know.
Okay. Well, I wonder what the salary is going to be because it used to be, back in the days, it was about $1 million per episode.
Well, actually, when the show was first announced, sources told The Hollywood Reporter that the cast, who all negotiated together, will earn more than double their former per episode fee for the reunion. That's between $2.5 to $3 million per episode. For each person.
I want to be part of the Friends group now.
Friends group.
Because back when the original show was being shot, the cast basically they negotiated all of them. They sat down and they renegotiated their salaries together to earn $1 million per episode. That was the deal, and they made it because they were so successful. It was like top rating show.
That show was huge.
It was huge. So they were they sat all together, and they're like, you know what, as a team, we're going to have to do this. We're going to ask for the max. And they did, and they got it.
They remind me of Ramadan. Reason being is back in the days when you're growing up here, and of course there was only one English channel that was available on the cable networks, and right after they had the adhan, they had the dua and whatever iftar festivities, they'd start playing English programs, right? And Friends was amongst them. It used to happen around 8 o'clock. So shout out to all of you who remember those back in the days vibes. But yeah, that's how I remember it. So after iftar, when you're sitting down, after your prayers are done and everything's done, sat next to the TV, Friends would be the show that you'd be watching. But for the time being, I'm done with it. I think they're so old. They're on Netflix. I know they've been on for a while. They're an easy show to catch up on. Doesn't matter which episode or which season you're on, you'll just can't grasp the idea and you'll be fine with the content. But the laughter in the background, that just was not for me. I really didn't like it.
Not for me, not for you, but it's for me.
The laughter in the background.
Yes. I love everything about the Friends show. I don't mind it.
It's okay.
Right, Ahmed? Do you mind it?
I don't mind it at all.
All right.
There's a lot of the older shows are like that. You watch Seinfeld, or you get
Mr.
Everybody
Bean.
Loves Raymond,
Yeah.
Seinfeld, and
all the old sitcoms.
Yeah.
I wonder when they decided like that's not the thing we're gonna do anymore. When like they stopped doing it altogether.
That's true.
And they all have
I
the
don't
same
know.
laugh. But, oh, well.
But it's funny because I've known somebody who worked in the set of one of these things, and people are told when to laugh. The audience sitting there
Yeah.
like, now laugh, and people start laughing. It's pretty interesting.
Exciting times indeed. Well, the Friends show is returning, or the Friends reunion is happening. It's going to start filming in Los Angeles next week. So if you're excited, drop us a note on those text lines 4215 to get involved with that. For the time being, though, Morning Majlis shall take a bit of a breather. In fact, we'll be back again right after the news headlines. So do stay tuned to Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse.